6 tons of amber. Bent into impossible curves without cracking. For 300 years, nobody could figure out how they did it. Modern scientists failed for decades trying to recreate the amber room. Then they found a guild master's secret journal. What they discovered inside rewrites everything we thought we knew about ancient craftsmanship. The amber room vanished in 1945. Nazi soldiers dismantled it in 36 hours and loaded it onto trucks heading west. Then it disappeared forever. But here is the mystery nobody talks about. Even before it vanished, the amber room was impossible. Not because of its beauty, but because of its construction. Amber is fossilized tree resin. It shatters under pressure. It cracks when heated. It cannot be bent or molded like metal. Yet somehow, 18th century craftsmen created curved panels, intricate mosaics, and three-dimensional carvings from this brittle material. When modern experts tried to recreate even a small section in 1979, they failed catastrophically. Every technique they tried resulted in cracked, ruined amber. The original craftsmen took their secrets to their graves. Or so everyone believed. Because somewhere in the archives of St. Petersburg, a discovery was waiting that would change everything. To understand why the amber room seemed impossible, you need to understand amber itself. This is not a stone. It is not a mineral. Amber is ancient tree resin, sometimes 40 million years old, that has fossilized over millennia. When you try to carve it, it chips unpredictably. When you heat it to make it pliable, it becomes cloudy and cracks. When you try to join two pieces together, no adhesive seems to hold permanently. Yet in 1716, Prussian craftsmen presented Russian Tsar Peter the Great with an entire room made of this temperamental material. The panels were flawless. The joints were invisible. The amber actually curved in ways that should have been physically impossible. If this is blowing your mind, hit that like button. Because here is where it gets truly strange. The original room was only 85 square feet. Catherine the Great later expanded it to over 180 square feet. They somehow made more amber panels that perfectly matched panels created decades earlier. The color, the clarity, the technique. Identical. Now let me shift your perspective entirely. Forget about the amber room for a moment. Think about the craftsmen themselves. In 18th century Prussia, amber workers were organized into secretive guilds. These were not loose associations. They were closed societies with strict hierarchies, sworn oaths of secrecy, and carefully guarded techniques passed only from master to apprentice. Guild records reveal that apprentices trained for 7 to 10 years before being allowed to work unsupervised. Masters could be expelled and ruined for sharing techniques outside the guild. But here is what makes this relevant. When the Nazis looted the amber room, they also seized documents. Thousands of pages from museums, archives, and libraries across Eastern Europe. Most were scattered, destroyed, or lost in the chaos of war. But some ended up in unexpected places. And in 2003, a researcher named Alexander Krulov made a discovery in a forgotten corner of the Tsarskoye Selo Museum archive. A leather journal, water-damaged but legible, written by a guild master named Gottfried Thurau. Gottfried Thurau was not just any craftsman. According to the journal, he was one of the masters who worked on the original amber room expansion under Catherine the Great. And unlike his secretive predecessors, Thurau had documented everything. But here is why his journal matters so much. The Russians had been trying to reconstruct the amber room since 1979. For over 20 years, master craftsmen in St. Petersburg had struggled with the same problems. How do you heat amber without clouding it? How do you bend it without cracking it? How do you join pieces invisibly? They had developed some workarounds through trial and error. But Thurau's journal contained something they had never seen. Detailed temperature charts. Specific timing measurements. Chemical formulas for adhesives. And most importantly, a technique called blind heating that nobody in the modern era had ever heard of. The reconstruction team was about to discover that everything they thought they knew about working amber was fundamentally incomplete. But here is what nobody expected. The guild masters were not just craftsmen. They were essentially scientists who never wrote things down publicly. Turo's blind heating technique reveals a level of sophistication that rewrites our understanding of 18th century technology. Here is how it worked. Modern craftsmen heated amber directly, which caused internal stresses and clouding. The guild masters did something completely different. They buried amber pieces in heated sand at precisely controlled temperatures, letting heat transfer gradually and evenly through the material. But the real genius was in what they added to that sand. Turo describes mixing in crushed amber dust, specific plant oils, and mineral compounds. This created a microenvironment that actually prevented oxidation during heating. The amber could be heated to its softening point without any of the damage modern craftsmen experienced. If you have made it this far, subscribe now because what comes next is even more remarkable. They did not just heat the amber. They transformed it. The heated amber was pliable for only minutes. In that narrow window, craftsmen had to shape it precisely before it cooled and hardened again. Turo's journal describes an assembly line system where multiple craftsmen worked in coordinated sequence. One monitored temperature. One extracted the piece at exactly the right moment. One shaped it against prepared wooden molds. And one applied pressure at calculated intervals to prevent cracking during cooling. Think about that for a second. This was industrial precision in 1750. But here is the part that shocked modern reconstructors most. The journal describes how masters could actually change amber's color during the heating process. Natural Baltic amber ranges from pale yellow to deep orange.